Hello, everyone. You're in orbit with Launch Team 6352. Today, I'm your host, Aditya, and we'll be talking about all the ins and outs of scouting on our team, Launch Team 6352, and how it works in terms of the strategy of our team. And today, we're joined by our special guest, Arnav Kannan, who is our strategy and scouting expert on our team.
Woo! Yeah, thank you. Thank you for introducing me like that.
Yeah, such a big entrance for such a special guest.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm excited to talk about, scouting strategy today. Um, I think it's one of my favorite parts of robotics, I'd say, especially because like when I first entered, like I wasn't interested in it, and then throughout my 4-year career in robotics so far, and obviously afterwards, how I'll continue now. I think it like brought a new interest to me and it brought a new dynamic to the team. So I'm excited we can get into that today.
Yeah, so obviously Arnav is well, I mean, he just graduated from senior year, so he's going into his freshman year of college, so he definitely has like a lot of experience on that, as he mentioned. So I guess to start off, what is, I guess, the primary strategy of our scouting on our team, and like, how do you think that compares to other teams that are in FRC? Or I guess this could work for FTC as well.
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Like I've especially at competitions that we've gone to, uh, our scouting. I think one thing is that it's developed over the years, especially because we weren't doing it as much when, from based off what I've seen from when I first entered or joined the team. We weren't doing scouting really, and it wasn't because it's not a priority, but mainly because you don't have the students that want to do it. A that want to do it, and B, you don't have enough students to actually do the scouting. So as many people know, like scouting takes a lot of student resources, especially during competitions. A lot of the times if you have manual scouters for every single one of the robots on the field, and there's 6 robots on the field, then that's going to end up being 6 students needed to watch every single match. And so not only is that student resources, but that's also their time that they could be. If some of them are on the drive team, then they have to spend have to cut their time here and there and organize it like here and like that. So I think one thing that kind of separates our scouting system from other teams is like how open we are to collaborate with other teams. I've definitely seen it from other teams, especially like talking about open softwares and let's add our data together. And but I think one thing about us is that we're just willing to adapt to that and like quickly just accept kind of their offer if they're offering something that's gonna basically help us as well as help them. It's that cooperation part of first. I think that's the one thing that really helped us, and then also consistently developing and improving the scouting. So in my freshman year, for example, we used to use like paper and pen scouting, and that was like really poor, but it's all I knew at the time. And then from talking to other teams and seeing how other people did it, we were able to develop it and develop it and develop it, finally ending up at a product where we're collaborating. First of all, it's digitally, so everything's fast, but we're collaborating with other teams at our events and just getting the most accurate data and as much data as possible that basically helps us inform our decisions.
Right, and I think you mentioned it earlier, but like we also had, I know like last year, or at least this recent year, Coconuts created their own like scouting system, right? And I think a lot of teams are kind of creating their own systems that work best for them. So do you think that there should be like a, you know, one size fits all scouting system, or do you think it should be that each team kind of specializes it depending on their situation?
You know, I think it's there's kind of two sides to this, and I'll explain why. It's because at very first I was thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great as soon as I discovered these kind of scouting apps that different teams develop and different people develop, and how I was like, wouldn't it be great if there's just one unified scouting app that everybody uses and then everybody can just upload their data to and everything is centralized and that way it just makes the whole process smoother. And I can definitely see the pros in that. You know, like I just said, it makes the whole process smoother. You have a way larger data set of information, and the more information you have, the more decisions you can come to strategically. And you can, it also helps if you yourself don't have that student resources to do the scouting. You're basically working with the other teams and still getting the scouting done, even if you don't, like, it's basically not limiting you from the scouting. So it's kind of like making the playing field a little bit equal and allows more opportunities for different strategies. But to kind of counteract that on the opposite side of the coin. Um, the reason I think that we have so many of these different scouting softwares is that different teams, especially at the beginning of the season, once they dissect the game manual, dissect the game, see what in their eyes is more important, a lot of the things might become irrelevant to them that are becoming super important strategically and scouting wise to completely other teams. And so if we have something that's unified, it almost it levels the playing field, but it levels it too much where there's not enough, differences or enough variance between the different strategies that actually arise to interesting gameplay. Does that make sense?
Yes. It feels like you're
Yeah, I'm
giving
just
me a
trying.
lecture on scouting.
I'm just so interested into it. I hope people are as interested as I am because like the ability to take the numbers, just the raw information, and the fact that every single team can do this, right? If there's just a big data set of numbers and information, every single team is somehow able to come up with their own customized ranking just based off the numbers, and that can help them strategically come up with different in-game, in-match strategies, and as well as like maybe for example in alliance selection they're able to do that better, or they're able to come up with, oh, maybe our robot is really good at this, but most of the successful teams at our event was really good at this other thing. Maybe that's something we send back to our build team, say, prototype some stuff about this, let's test it out, let's see if we can make ourselves more valuable, basically. And I think
Yeah,
that's just
and
like so interesting.
yeah. And I guess like another thing about it is that I feel like in all of robotics or in engineering in general, it's very like hands-on. Like there's a whole design process that comes with it, right? But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
scouting is one of those things that's more research oriented. Like in my senior class, right, we have AP research and we had to do like a presentation this week about like different research methods. So the one that I did a presentation on was like phenomenological research, which is like based on different types of phenomenons. That means it's all like qualitative data, right? So it's all based on like interviews and experiences, kind of like podcasts themselves as a whole, that you can also take that as information. But all scouting is like mainly, I know not all of it is, but like obviously mainly it's quantitative research, right? It's like the other side of it. So it's kind of like you can have the same set of data and all the same set of numbers, but it's based on like the individual and based on the system to see how that data is used for the best of the team, the like help of the team as a whole. So I think if anybody is interested in that, like in the team in general, like I feel like scouting is the one thing that's more research heavy that could be useful for like any types of data analysis and like statistics as a whole. And that can relate to like, school subjects that can even lead to an interest in data analysis as it did for you as well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it did for me. Exactly what it did.
Yeah. So,
And
I guess, yeah, go ahead.
sorry. No, you go.
Go ahead. It's your guess.
Okay. So I like how you brought up the qualitative versus quantitative because on top of like scouting actual matches, getting statistics of each robot and what they did, what they didn't do, I like how a lot of teams also, us included, value that quantitative um, data side of it. So as well as going up to the teams, talking to them, learning about their drive teams, learning about their robot, learning about the intricacies of some parts of the robot that may like the nuances that you don't see on the actual field, but that may end up, helping or hurting us like strategically. I think that maybe that part's underutilized by some teams and overutilized by some teams, but I'm like that you brought that up because it's also very valuable in the synthesis of the whole strategy discussion as a whole.
Right. And like strategy isn't just about, scouting, right? Like there's obviously the coach aspect of it and how that occurs in terms of like in the moment gameplay because, it's kind of like the way that I think of it is like it's very sports oriented, right? And there's a whole debate about like whether robotics is a sport or like first is a sport, but I mean that's a separate conversation. But like whenever you're in a game, right? Sure the coach can like tell the players as much as they want, but like at the end of the day, it's up to the captain and up to the players for what they want to do in the moment because they have to quickly adapt to whatever's going on. So how do you think like all the scouting information relates to, like in match practice and like when coaches and the drivers have to make on the spot decisions?
You know, I'm actually, this is so crazy. I had a revelation about this literally 1 week ago, I think, or maybe like 5, 6 days ago. I don't know, like 6 or 6, 7 days ago, right? I was just like standing there thinking about, oh, it was fun going to Worlds this year, we had a lot of time there to like kind of learn about different. I mean, obviously I'm gonna look at it strategically, scouting wise, right? Like these different things. That's just how my mindset is. And I'm looking at it through this lens, and all of a sudden like something clicks to me. And it's like during some matches at Worlds I was acting as coach of the drive team. And even though coach heavily relies on our strategic and basically our strategic discussion before the match, there's such a huge difference with post and pre-match scouting and strategy discussion and then in-match strategy discussion. And I'm going to expand on that a little bit here, so sorry if I go on a little rant, but for example, when I was coach, I had spent so much time looking at the numbers, looking at what is this team good at, what is that team good at, talking to the other coaches, talking about everything that like every basically single possibility that can happen in the match. How are we going to counteract this? How are we going to counteract that? You can talk about it. And then the second you get into the match, it's a whole different game. It's literally a whole different game. It's way more of should you have to make the decisions on the fly based on the data, but you don't have the data. I mean, unless you're a superhuman and have a supercomputer chip in your head. But like you don't
It's not too
have
far from our possibilities considering the technology of nowadays, but
I,
like that might be a possibility future.
I mean, it might be, and then the two confuse. But the main thing is like as of right now, at least, it almost feels like there needs to be a divide between coaching in game and strategy talk, strategy discussion, pre post match. Not in, I mean in match as well, but like there's very little of that realistically because it's very hard to communicate in such high stakes situations. But I feel like there has to be a divide there, and then yes, both they need to communicate with each other, but one focusing too heavily on the other, and one focusing like that focus on the opposite, kind of it lowers the kind of standard of each. So I know it sounds really vague, but I'm gonna give myself as an example. I mean, I already said I was super focused, right? Super focused on the stats, super focused on what this team is doing, super focused on what that team is doing, thinking we had the most efficient, most optimized plan. Everything would work out. I mean, you don't know what the other alliance will do, but according to the plan, everything should work out like this, like this, like this. Step one, step two, step three, end of game, results required, right? But when you're in such a high stakes, chaotic environment, so many crazy things happen. One of the game pieces getting lodged here, and you can plan for that, and you can do all these different things to basically negate any of that stuff happening. But then when anything happens, it's like a completely different thing that goes on in the coach's head. It's like, what do we do? Decisions have to be made on the fly, like this, and time is still ticking down. You got to be paying attention to that. You got to be telling people like communicating because as the coach, you're not executing on the field, but you have to give the
Coach your
commands
own
in a
play.
sense, almost. Yeah, coach the players basically. So that's the fact that you brought it up is so crazy because I had that revelation literally like a week ago, and it's like that split it needs to be there. It actually needs to be defined. Before I thought coaching, scouting, it's like pretty much the same thing. My naive self. I was like, it's pretty much the same thing, like one talks about strategy, the other talks about strategy. It's really not that, and then you look into it and you're in the position and it's like, whoa, everything is different in both the sides. You know what I
Yeah, it's
mean?
definitely like, and it's not even that, like, it's also like from an audience perspective, like if you're sitting in the stands, it's like a way different thing to actually being there and on the drive team, or like even being in the little huddle that goes on like before the matches or even during the matches. So it's like, again, if we like relate it back to sports, like obviously people who are like criticizing you on the outside, like who aren't even playing the game, like obviously they might have some good points, but like it shouldn't come to the point where like they're influencing your decisions. Like it's up to you in the moment because you obviously have to trust your own abilities, trust your drivers, and that in the end, I feel like the more successful team that comes out of it. First of all, like obviously there's other factors like the that you have to have a good robot, have a good autonomous, like all the extra stuff. But in terms of like the actual emotions on field, like there needs to be like a strong center of trust between the coach and the drivers, not only between like the emotional connection between the drivers themselves because they have to kind of think where the other person's going. That's like a whole separate thing, but obviously the coach has to be there to kind of facilitate that. And as long as that's like a strong team in itself, it's kind of difficult to see them like struggle as a whole because that's like a strong connection you can't really replace.
Hmm. But I like the fact that you brought that up though, because like even if they're such a strong team, it also just like you obviously said it depends on the engineering that's gone behind it, the programming that's gone behind it, all this other stuff that has gone behind it. But I think also it depends on what strategies have been developed, what how in depth have you gone into the numbers to get the most optimized, most efficient solution to use what you have to get the result that you want. You know what I mean? I
Right.
like
Yeah.
that you brought that up.
Yeah.
It kind of connects the two.
Yeah. And I think we'll leave it on that. Like obviously robotics is a very team-oriented thing, so it's kind of like all the strings have to be like tossed in together, but make sure that it's kind of making sense in terms of where everyone's situated at and how that can lead to the overall team success.
I think it's good that like everything needs to be together. As a team, everything needs to be together, but also we need to learn to divide at the same time. We need to multiply and divide. You know what I mean? Reciprocal
Yeah,
properties for if you know you know.
we'll,
We need to
I guess we'll leave you
multiply
guys
our
on that.
efforts. No, 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 no,
Yeah, yeah.
no. We need to every single part of the team multiplies the other's efforts. So they keep on compiling, 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 but once it gets too much, you need to make
You
sure
have to
that there's the
divide.
divides in the middle so that everything stays solid and um simple.
And that's where we'll leave you off. That's Arno's famous quote of the episode. Again, thank you all for
Yes.
listening. Hopefully, this scouting episode was helpful. Either if you're a new team or if you're just learning how other teams do scouting, that's how we did it. That's our story. And Arno, being the expert here, told us all about it. So, again, thank you for listening. Make sure to
I'm
share
not
this
an
episode with.
expert, okay?
Okay, well,
I'm I'm
you're
uh,
our expert.
I never
You're our
claimed to
expert.
be an expert.
You're
Okay,
our
I'm
expert.
learning. I'm becoming. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm breaking out of my shell. I'm going through metamorphosis.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, please share this episode with anybody you think would be helpful. Give a rating if you want, and we'll see you guys next week. So this was In Orbit with Launch Team 6352. I'm Aditya,
And I'm Arnav.
and we'll see you next time.